This podcast is presented by the Petite Victory Collective. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Modular Stories. In this podcast, I would like to create a platform for people to share themselves, their stories, their experiences, and their life lessons. My goal with this podcast is to inspire the listeners, spark their creativity, and to share these incredible people I get to talk to with the world. I hope you enjoy it.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of my podcast Modular Stories. Today I'm here with 59 Perlen, so a warm welcome to him. And I don't want to introduce you. Please give the audience a bit of a taste of you. Who are you and what do you do?
Hi guys, I'm Matthias. I make music under the artist name 59 Perlen or 59 Perlen. And yes, I'm a German guy. I'm living in Switzerland, or maybe I'm half Swiss, half German right now, I guess. I'm a little old, but I make music since 25 years, I guess. And it is something that is in my life since I can remember. I started with the C64 computer. If some guys of you are a little in my age, they might know this first computer, and that was my first contact with electronic music, and it stayed in my life for the entire time, and it's something I really like. So that's me. I have a cat. I like cooking and traveling. That's me.
Nice. Very nice. What's your favorite recipe at the moment? Do you have something that you cooked recently that you were interested in?
Yes, I have to tell you, I cook a lot myself, but sometimes I order cooking boxes. There is a service where they measure everything. I do that pretty rarely, and there was one recipe which was super cool. It was super simple, just some pasta and some creamy sauce on it and stuff. I don't know. I have no recipe that I cook a lot, but that is not just pasta, Italian food. I have no.
That's always fine. Yes.
Yeah. I have to say, I like to have friends around for eating. So I like to host like little dinners and stuff. That is what I like. What we eat is not so important, but for me, it's important that to share a little bit and to have some fun together. And yeah, cooking for friends is cool.
Yeah, that's always super beautiful. I really like that too. We also do that a lot in our home now. Where I live with my study colleagues, we also often host people and then do little, dinner nights or game nights where we play Monopoly or Siedler of Catan or Risk. It's always super fun. It's always super nice when the right people are there.
Yeah, now it's turning winter, so you're gonna have long evenings for those games. Siedler is one of my favorite games, to be honest. Yeah.
I just played it the first time this year. I had never played it in my childhood, and then my friends just introduced it to them. It's really classic. It was super fun, and now we played it a long time and always far into the night. It's super fun.
This is something I like to do because my life is full of computers and electronics and stuff. And those board games, they are really nice. They give me something to keep the balance between screen and something out of the screen. So to say it like that. So I really like it from time to time. Yeah.
No, that's true. But that's also a perfect transition to my question, because I wanted to ask you, did you always do electronic music? Were you always working with computers? Because I think now you're also working with a lot of Dawless setups. So working still electronic music, but without a desk, without a DAW or without a computer. How did that develop over time?
So I first started to make music, as I just said, with the C64. That was only 3 voices, as far as I remember. My first real computer for making music was a 486 PC, and I remember I started with tracker software. I don't remember which one it was, but I started with, bless you, with tracker software.
Thank you.
And then there was Reason. That was my first DAW. I don't know if you guys remember Reason. They are
Yes.
still on the market. But when the first version came out, it was like a sensation. It was a complete studio in a package. And it was the moment when I started to make or try to make some tracks with a PC. So I always made music with a computer. And there was a moment when I decided to shift this on a little more ambitious level. I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago. It was the moment when I started my project, 59 Perlen. I say it myself in English. Sorry. It was the moment when I started this project, and I was still producing with a computer. And I made courses, and I produced progressive house, which I thought was pretty cool. So I proved myself I can do good music with a computer, but something was missing. So I'm not able to play an instrument in the classic term, like a guitar or piano. I always wanted to do that, but I didn't learn it. But I still was missing something to do with my hands. I wanted to make mistakes. I wanted to maybe influence or maybe suck the vibe of a crowd or something handcrafted, whatever. So that was missing. And then I think that was the moment when I bought a Machine Micro. That was years ago. I think that was even before I got Ableton. But I was so out of, I just didn't know what I do. And Machine Micro, I don't know if you know it, it's just a little box. And every button has,
small.
it's super tiny. Because I didn't want to spend so much money, I thought that was a good choice. But each button has like 4 or 5 different functions and different button combinations. And I had no clue about MIDI. So this whole thing was just a frustration. I think I used it 2 times and then I sold it. My computer was not fast enough for it. The machine is software, it takes a lot of performance. So I sold it and then I went back to, I don't know, Reason. And suddenly I bought a push with Ableton. And that was really the moment when I started to make more serious music. And actually this whole Dawless thing popped up because I never got really into this push thing. So it was standing around and I sold it somehow. And when Corona lockdown get us all at home, I bought the Digitakt. And that was really the moment when I started this whole Dawless thing. And the Digitakt gave me something that the whole Ableton story didn't. So I was super productive and I made super tracks super fast. And I did this every day. I wanted to be able, when the lockdown is over, I wanted to play music for people. So my goal was to play for live, in the live performance for audiences. That was my
super nice
goal. And I always thought that Ableton is not really the way for it. I thought Ableton it's called live because of this performance part, I guess. But for me, it was hard to think of this live. So I got the Digitakt. I have a friend close to Zurich, and he always told me, Matthias, get a Digitakt and a Digitone, and you will be the happiest man on earth. So yeah, that was the start of my whole Dawless thing. And then it's a rabbit hole. You very quickly add more synth to it. And during Corona, there was a lot of time. There was a lot of money. You couldn't travel. You couldn't go anywhere. So there was a lot of money left over that I used for building my setup. And yeah, that's where I am right now. So right now I played a little. This was the first year that I really played some gigs. I developed workflows for entire setups, and that's where I am right now. That's my story, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I saw your whole setup with your huge rack at home as well, on your reels. It's super impressive, all the stuff you've got going on and all the synchronization. So you can really use anything. But when we played together last week, I saw you only used the Digitakt, Digitone, and the mixer from Elektron. So it was, again, very small, but still there was so much in your tracks. Like the set was super beautiful and super coherent, and it was super nice to see that's possible as well without a computer, because I'm totally new to Dawless as well. I haven't played Dawless. Like, I think it was my first or second show I played Dawless. I'm a huge computer kid as well. I started with rock bands, if you can call that Dawless, but when I started with electronic production, I've never been computerless since. So yeah, it's very scary, and I was very, very impressed by what you did. It was super cool.
Thank you. Actually, this Dawless idea, I'm not sure. So there was a time when I got the Digitakt, and I always called my stuff Dawless, and I had a live stream, which I'm going to continue in 2 weeks, by the way. It's like a production live stream, and we had lots of discussions in this live stream. So there was like, I'm producing a track, and people were on YouTube chatting with me while I do that. And there were lots of discussions about this whole Dawless idea. And actually, I changed my mind a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's not important how you do the music. It's important that you have fun doing that. And if your fun is doing that with the mouse, it's fine. If the fun is doing that with knobs, it's fine. So I need knobs and faders and blinking lights that tells me, Matthias, you're a little kid, and do something. But if not, then it's Ableton. But actually, at the end of the day, all of my Dawless instruments are computers with a specific user interface. But behind is the software. And this whole Dawless idea, I'm still struggling with what to think about, because at the end of the day, everything is a computer with a user interface, and there's sound coming out of it. How you call that, I don't know. For me, this hardware thing is a little more, I'm more productive with it. I had a set this March for my company, so I'm not a full-time musician. I do that as a side job or half-time job, let's say. And I played a track for a booth party. That was Ableton and a controller and a synth. And actually, yes, it worked in a way, but there is not this immediate connection that gives me something. Even you can control Ableton with a controller, it's not the same. I can't tell you why. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think this Dawless is, I still call it Dawless because my whole blog is SEO focused on Dawless stuff. So I still write Dawless, but I'm still not sure if that's really important.
No, I don't know if it's important, but it's super nice, and it's something different. I feel like for me the nice thing about working with computers is that you are always a bit on the safe side. You always have the option to do everything just as you want. You have all the time to perfect everything, and that's, for me, it was some security that I didn't have when playing live with bands, because on bands you play mistakes, you do the wrong tempo, whatever, stuff happens, and with computers there was this safety for me that I know it will work just as I want it. There's no mistakes, and I'm quite a perfectionist in that sense, so that was really cool for me to see that change. But I think going back to what you also said is that thrill when playing live, to have the options to play mistakes and to do something that you didn't do the last show, or that something new happens. That's something where Dawless is definitely, or computerless, whatever you want to call it. It's something different and very exciting.
You know, there was in my neighborhood, so I'm living close to Zurich, or it's part of Zurich, there is like a cultural container-ish thing or place. And I had a concert there that was super nice or super cute in January. And after me was, before me, there was a band with 5 guys, and they had a huge setup that was really huge. They took the entire stage. They took like 1 hour to build it up, whatever.
Oh, God.
Then I came with the Digitakt only. And people were like, what the fuck is he doing? It's just this little box. But I entertained them for 45 minutes. And after me, there was a DJ who played only with an iPad and the super little tiny tractor thing.
Controller, yeah.
And he made a big sound and he was having so much fun with his iPad and connecting to the people. So it's really, I think it's just a matter of preference, and the audience actually doesn't care about how you do that. They can't even divide if that's, or they don't even recognize if that is like a record player or another box. They just see you're doing something with the box, so they don't even care about that. So it's personal preference, I guess.
No, that's true. And coming to your next part, you also said you travel a lot and you like traveling. And as we talked last week, you are right now quite in a journey. You've been to Amsterdam last week and to Italy, and now this week it's going to be London, if I can remember correctly, for gigs. So yeah, that's super exciting, man. I'm super happy for you. It sounds really lovely to meet all those people all around and jam with people from the collective that we are in, and just do some shows and play all over Europe.
Yeah, that's true. I'm pretty blessed. It is the first time I do that, actually. So last year, when we have been still in the lockdown, I was dreaming of playing some concerts, and I applied for some restaurants here in Zurich, and I had a lot of these this year. So for me, this was more like an exercise, because next year I want to go more on festivals. But right now, this is more like I had some weeks of vacation and I didn't know what to do. And then I asked people in the group of Petite Victory Collective, hey guys, I have 3 weeks off. Who is up for getting creative with me? And I'm willing to have 2 city trips. So London was already booked earlier this year. And then there was Diga, Akaniko answering, and Peter, Akateder. And so I visited them, and it was super cool. So we had this party where I met you as well, which was super cool. I really enjoyed this moment to see you doing your performance with Peter. And then there was last week, I went to Brescia, which is close to Milan. And I had a super intensive weekend with Nicolo. We had we made a complete entire set from scratch in just 1.5 days. It was a really cool workflow, I have to say. So I was a little scared because I never did that before. But we had a very good connection. So we have been out for some drinks the first night, and then the next day we started with doing some tracks at his home. And the next day we had like 6 hours. It was really, really nice, but it was also exhausting, I have to say. So at the end of Saturday night, I was really tired of everything.
I can imagine.
And yes, now comes London, which is London will be at the Tileyard Gallery in London. It's in Soho, I think. With Mark. He's a friend of mine. Actually, he was a customer of mine. He bought one of my music coachings that you can buy on my website, a little promotion. And he is super experienced. He has a lot of connections in London, and he invited me to play with him a gig. So I will play like 45 minutes, and yeah, I'm super excited about that. But then it's over. This is the last thing this year. There will be like a concert in Copenhagen in November, and I'm gonna play a performance with my partner, I think also in December. So yeah, there's some stuff going on. Yeah, but this traveling is cool, and the weekend in Brescia gave me also a lot. So I'm going to do that next year again. That was really it gave me a lot of inputs and inspiration, and this collaboration thing. I think you can relate if you can't compare it to your collaboration with Peter, but this idea of doing something together brings totally new influences and sounds that I would never do on my own, maybe. So yeah, I really appreciated this whole thing. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think that's a really good point, because in collaboration, I feel like you sometimes learn things that you would have never considered yourself. When you always work on your own, you sometimes are stuck in your little box and just use the same sounds again and use the same reference tracks or whatever. And when working with somebody else, you see other ways, other sides of it, and it's super inspirational. I totally understand that.
Totally. That was actually what I was hoping for when I thought, okay, my partner wasn't here, and then I thought, okay, what can I do? I was not really up for going somewhere alone for 2 weeks or something. Actually, I enjoy traveling alone sometimes. But I thought, okay, let's make it like a little experiment to figure out if that works or not. And exactly what you said is you get many new ideas and stuff that you would never think about alone. And the thing is, in Zurich, I'm missing a little bit like a community where I can connect to. Like Zurich is not that big city actually, and there are some electronic musicians, but until now I didn't connect to these because of different reasons. And I would really like to have somebody here who creates with me once a month, or where you can just jam around a little bit or so. But yeah, until now I didn't find it, but I found it in these events, like in the one in Amsterdam, or even we didn't play together, but still meeting you and talk and exchange ideas, whatever, was super cool. So this whole idea of going somewhere out of your comfort zone and meet somewhere and create maybe something together is priceless. It's really cool.
Yeah, it really is. I remember you when we played together, and afterwards we were thinking about what we wanted to do afterwards, and you said, "Oh, man, I'm so hyped! I want to go just back into my hotel room and work and produce new music there." I really felt your energy. It was super beautiful to hear that, and that you just, like, after the meeting, after playing for like 2 hours, still wanted to go back and do more music. It really speaks for your passion as well.
Yeah. I think that's important. I mean, this passion is something that every musician knows it. Like, you have that or not. And I do that since such a long time. And it doesn't fade away. It's nothing that is like a trend for me or something I do for a season. It's really part of my life. And yeah, I think it's that you just said is really something. It's really the passion that is so important, and yeah, I think that's what people keep creating or keep getting together or whatever how you call that. But that's pretty important, I think.
For sure. Would you like to tell me like how you started with music, how you found your passion in music? Do you remember that, the moment where you thought, oh, this is really something? Was there a moment, or was it like a whole development? How did it work for you?
Yes, I remember I was very little when that started. So my whole family is kind of musikalischer. What's the word for musikalisch in English? Musically. So my brother was a drum player, or he still plays drums. He played trumpets. My parents have been in a choir, which I didn't like actually. And I was into electronic music since the moment, I think I was 8, 9 years old when I got a computer. And this computer was this bespoken Commodore 64. I think that was the first personal computer for the masses, they call. When you think about that nowadays, it's a joke. This computer has 64 kilobytes of storage. Now my watch has like 64 gigabytes of storage. But at this time, I was absolutely fascinating of that, because there was a dedicated sound chip on the board of this computer that was called SID. It was the sound, I don't know the exact name for it, but the computer had only 3 voices. And I know a couple of artists at this time, they composed tracks with it that are still on my mind. They were so catchy. Like Chris Hülsbeck is one of them. He created music for Gianna Sisters, which was a super big platform game on the 64. He wrote a track for a magazine that was called 64er. That was a dedicated computer magazine for this era. And he wrote a track and he won a competition with a track that was called Shades. And only with 3 tracks, he included drums, he included arpeggiations, he included melodies, complex arrangements. And I was absolutely fascinated by that. And I tried to do something like that, but it's for creating myself, it started only a couple of years later. But that was a moment when I realized that electronic music is something I wanted to play guitar. I also had some flute sessions when I was a kid. Like every kid in Germany learns to play a flute, actually.
Yes.
In the kindergarten. So I had some experiences, but I was bored of that. So, and in the moment when the C64, I got this as a gift from my granny, it opened up a world. It opened this passion to me, which never faded. So this is still alive, and it's a little stupid to say, but sometimes I really Google for these old tracks from this guy, Chris Hülsbeck. He was my idol at the time. And sometimes I listen to that and it still pushes me back to the time. Yeah. But that was really the moment that opened this world of computer music. This developed over a very long time. So it took me years to get somewhere to start music making. So my dream was always to create my own record. At that time, that was totally not to think about. So my first record was from Michael Jackson. So you had a contract with a major label. It was just a dream. And but still, all these dreams and all this passion that opened up is still alive, and I'm super happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And now you've realized your dream. I have a record of yours. You gifted it to me I will show a picture here. You gifted it to me at the concert. It was super nice, and now you have a vinyl record of your music. It's super, super awesome.
Yeah, that was a dream that came true. It's actually unreleased. It's gonna release in January only. So you're one of the very first persons I gave this.
That's super nice. That's really, I really appreciate it.
Yes, it's a dream that came true. I have this since I can remember, actually. But only when these apps industry came up, I think a lot of stuff changed in the music industry. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's true. And there, I think nowadays is really a really nice time to do music, because you can just do anything you want and you don't need to rely on anybody. It's just your passion and whatever you create. That's super nice. And that's why where we also found each other, through like a small label, like a Danish label called Petite Victory Collective, that is a label and also a very nice collective. And yes, greetings to everybody listening.
Many greetings to everyone. Those guys are amazing. Yeah.
Yes, it's super incredible, and it's so nice to have like this community as well within the label, that you can just talk with people that have the same passion, that do the same things. And it's super cool that nowadays these kind of things are possible, that it's not about competition, about competing, who gets the bigger label deal or who gets the more budget for the studio or whatever, but it's just everybody does music and does exactly what they want, and there's no limitations anymore. I feel like with anything.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, totally. Well, actually, I still feel there's a lot of competition. In this group, the group is all these groups are like bubbles to me. In the real world, there's a lot of competition. And I still feel that many musicians, they are only after their own success. But anyhow, being successful, what does it mean? I mean, it's for me, successful is like to do what I want to do and to be able to do that. But I think there are lots of musicians who I don't know the English word for it. They only look themselves. They only look after themselves. They don't care about the others. And I think Petite Victory Collective is pretty cool. That is also one of the reasons why I have to say it's some time ago that I released something on Petite Victory Collective because I have another label that I release with. But I think Petite Victory Collective is a super nice group of people with similar interests. Even there are lots of guys with different genres or different levels of knowledge, whatever. Some are beginners, some are advanced, whatever. But it's pretty cool what keeps this group together, and I really appreciate it, I have to say. And I'm looking forward to the event in November, Sonic Playground Volume 2 in Copenhagen, where we're going to have like a showcase for the label as well. And I like that it's not really called a label, it's more like a community. So you can release music under this label, but the community vibe is more important than this label thing, because when it comes to labels, that's a completely different story. I'm very skeptical, and I'm not sure that nowadays the labels are really helpful for musicians. So that is the reason why I really like what Petite Victory does. And big greetings to Guillaume, who is the man behind this label. I'm doing a podcast with him once a month, and he's really driving that really nice forward. So kudos.
Yes, it's really beautiful. That's true. It's a great community and a great place for us to learn from each other. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm not a big fan of like this traditional major labelism that's happening, and I feel like a lot of major labels usually don't really help musicians anymore. But it's less about creativity and more about the market side, and I feel like that's always very sad. Because when it comes to like marketing your tracks and staying who you are as your identity or something, there's no development in there. So a lot of times people in labels don't really do what they could, and they aren't allowed the whole freedom of what they could do. And I think that's the sad part about labels.
There is a story that I can tell you, like some years ago, I think it must be in the beginning of November, that I released a track that's called Scirocco. Scirocco is still one of my most streamed tracks. It's like a progressive house track. Mm-hmm. Totally different style I do today. But I released this on my own with Discord. And right after that, I made another track which was totally different style. And I just liked it, but I didn't care about genre or continuity, whatever. I just made a track and I submitted that to some labels using Label Radar. And the label from Switzerland contacted me and they said, Matthias, the track that you submitted, we are not really sure about that, but we like the track that you released alone, Scirocco. Can't you copy paste it and change the melody so we have something like that we can release on our label? And I was like, no. So that was so stupid in my eyes and they told me, yeah, you need to have a style and people have to recognize it. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to copy paste my own work. It's like, okay, I like this track a lot and I still want to do maybe that one day again in this style. But that idea was so stupid that I was really a little bit like stepping back from labels. And I still think that these traditional labels, they are, so let's say, they expect you to do the majority of the promotion, for instance. So I usually expect from a label that they give me maybe some exposure, or they give me some contacts or access to a network, or they give me a platform to present my art, whatever. But usually these newer labels, they expect you to bring that into this so-called partnership. And that's why I'm not a big fan of it, because usually I have more followers as any of these labels on Instagram, for instance. They don't bring you any exposure. They don't bring you anything, but you sell them the rights on your tracks. And this is what I like about Petite Victory Collective and also Shady Rich Records, with the other label that I release music with. They don't buy your rights or they exclusive rights. You keep them and you can do whatever you want. If I want to make a remix with other people, I can do that. If I sell this track to a label, I cannot decide. They decide if there will be a remix or not. And I can't remix it myself because I sold this track to this label actually.
Yeah.
So, but for what? There is nothing in return. There's no, and that makes it complicated. I just don't like it. I'm not a big fan of that. And I see the point. Artists want to do that because they think, releasing on a label brings you a step forward, maybe. For me, it's not. I'm not sure. Did you release on a label? Other Petite Victory Collective?
No. I was on no label beforehand. I also applied to some, but I also got some offers, but they were all also quite shitty with not great deals. Like I had one where everything was 50-50. So I had to pay 50% of all the advertisement for them getting 50% of my royalties. And I was like, why should I do that then? You know, what's the point? If there's a label that really wants to help me, they should invest in me. If we're talking traditional labels, you know. So I never did that, and I also never felt the necessity for it, because for me it was quite important to keep the rights of my tracks, especially because I'm working in film as well. So for that, it's great to have the option to say, okay, I have full control over what I do. I have the master rights, I have the copyright rights, I have the recordings, I have everything, and I can make my own deals. If I work on a movie and they need, I don't know, music to play on the radio in the car, I can make a deal selling my music for that as well. And I have full control over what's happening with my content. I can use my music as my background music in YouTube and don't get copyright claimed from my label doing it through the back door or whatever. So I'm quite happy that I never had that issue. And with Petite Victory Collective, it's the same. I keep all the rights, and that's what I liked about it as well. And that's why I thought it was a great change for a label that everything is still in my copyright, and that is really important to me. I would have one last question for you, if you'd like, changing the topic a bit, but going a bit more philosophical. That's a question I always ask my guests, and it's always very interesting to see what other people come across with it. It's a theory about museum lives. It's from an author called Paul Strzelecki. He released it in a book about finding your purpose in life and all that belongs to that. It's a very, very great book. And the theory is about that after you die, you get transcended into a museum. You go into this museum, and it's the museum of you. So everything that you spend your time with is actually presented in that. If you work for 8 hours a day, every day of your life, then 1/3 of that museum is pictures or exhibitions about you working. And it's supposed to like kind of present you your own life in a way that you maybe haven't thought about that much, or just reflect better on your life to see, okay, what are things that I would like to be in my museum, and what do I have to invest time-wise in that to happen. So I would just like to get your opinion on that, because we talked a tiny bit before about that as well, and you had a quite nice opinion, so I'm interested to hear more about that.
So yes, we had a quick talk about that before we started this recording. So actually, I don't tell so much about this private stuff on my socials, but I'm not I don't believe in these religious communities, to be honest. So I was raised very Catholic. So where I come from, this whole area is strictly Catholic, and I was raised Catholic. But I actually never believed in this, what they do, or also how they treat like minority society groups, or well, maybe they change, whatever. Or anyways, this whole thing never catched me. But I still believed that my life is the opposite of your museum thing, what you just said. So I still believe that before I was born, I created parts, or I set a focus of something that my entire life will circle around. I have the feeling that there are some main topics that I set to myself before I went on this earth, or I was born, that I will work on these topics. And for me, this museum idea is more like, I did some exercises of this. So where I go deep in my consciousness, or I get into like a trancey state of mind. That sounds a little weedy now, but I made some exercises where I went into the deepest corners of my how to say that? Oh, I don't know the English word for it.
Conscious?
In memories, or yeah. And that was like a museum. So that was more like a castle, or like a hidden place where all of this is kind of stored, that I decided how this life that I'm living might be. So maybe health is not a focus of this life. Maybe money is the focus of this life. So, and this is stored somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that your entire behavior, or the way that you live or communicate with other people, is based on this and these decisions. However that works, I have no clue. But I know that there is something at least in me, that I can remember from other lives. That sounds a little outer spacey, but it's very private stuff. But I believe that, yeah. So this is my kind of museum. I actually never thought of this idea of a museum after life. Because I still have no clue what happens after I die. So, as I don't really, I believe in something. I believe in love, for instance, but I don't believe this idea of a guy that is watching every one of us and something like that. So yeah, but the idea of your museum is pretty nice. I have to think about that actually. So right now, this whole idea was more in the past. It was more historic focus, or however you want to call that, I guess. I think this is more. I think this whole idea it comes a little bit from the Buddhism. Even I don't know that exactly, but my partner told me that a couple of times, that this idea might be equal to Buddhism way of thinking stuff. Yeah.
No, but like it's a very nice idea. I really think it's really cool, and I'm super glad about your answer. It's really something else, and it's really interesting to think about as well. I think with the museum life, it's more of that. It's not like it's not you go there as in physically this is what happens when you die, but it's just like I think it just tries to reflect, or to get you to reflect on what are you spending your time with. But I think the theories we both have can also be just coexisting, to just realize again what you had before your birth set out for you, and to refocus on whatever you did there. And I think that's very important, to have these kind of focus points in your life, to spend your time with specific things and to realize these things and just keep them in your head. In general, I think that's very important to do, to keep your focus.
I mean, I'm not the guy who is super intelligent when it comes to these theory stuff and these books and stuff. So, but I still think that I don't want to go through this life without reflecting anything. So the way of doing that can be super different. So that can be the way you're describing with this museum idea, or maybe it's reflecting what I do in this life. And maybe I know that deep inside is an idea that that makes my path where I go through this life. And if I reflect that, so I think it's just important that you do something like that, or that you think about how does it work, or why do I like this? So, or why is my soul maybe into that direction and maybe not into that direction? That's really philosophical.
Yes.
And as I said, I'm not the really philosophical guy, but it touches me, and it's I think it's important, and it's not that I think about it every day, but I think it's important to think about that stuff. Yeah.
No, for sure. But I totally feel you. I also don't think about these kind of things every day, and I think sometimes it also really feels pressuring to think about these kind of things for me. So I also like to keep them away sometimes. But when I know sometimes when I get stuck in work, or I just lose motivation, then it sometimes helps me a lot to get back to these kind of questions, to get back to why am I doing this, and that sometimes can really help.
Totally.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. It was super beautiful talking to you, and I think that's a beautiful way to end this episode. For everybody, I will post links in the description of your website and your music, your Spotify, so everybody can check you out. And yes, I wish you great fun in London with your next concert and masterclass. And thank you so much for being here on the podcast.
Thank you for the invitation. It was great meeting you 2 weeks ago. It was great to meet you again. Thanks for the opportunity. And yes, thank you very much. I'm going to have my dinner now, actually, that I cooked already. So to come back to the circle of food, I can tell you, I'm going to have my dinner now.
What's on tonight?
It's couscous with vegetables. It's something veggie, I guess. Yeah.
Nice.
Very simple. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Yeah.
And I wish you very much success with your podcast. And
thank you.
A nice evening. Hope to see you again soon.